plus $15 worth of free drinks. On the night of January 21st, 1959, after a drinking bout, Carl and a friend named Jack Pt6 decided that Bud Stilts owed Carl the $50, and they came banging on his door demanding the money. Carl forced his way in, and a fight broke out. Details are sketchy and controversial, but there's no doubt that Stilts got bashed in the face with a heavy clock. It's also a fact that Stilts shot Carl with a .38 caliber revolver, and Carl died on the way to the hospital. What is not clear is Stilts' version of what happened, the main point being that Carl had pulled a knife and was threatening to kill him with it, and that after he shot Carl, Carl closed the knife as he slowly dropped to the floor. Jack Pt6 claimed that Carl was not armed, and that Stilts was a cold-blooded murderer, but the police didn't buy his story, and the killing of Alfalfa over a $50 debt was ruled a justifiable homicide. August 9th, 1969. It was a hot Saturday night in Los Angeles, when 3 young women and a young man, all high on drugs, drove up into the cooler air of the canyons above Beverly Hills. They were on a mission of murder, calculated to start a war between blacks and whites. They called their plan Helter Skelter. Knowing the house they wanted, they turned on to Cielo Drive. It was somewhere around midnight when they pulled up quietly near the house. It took them about 4 hours to complete their grisly work. Between 12:30 and 1 a.m., neighbors heard gunshots. Someone else heard a woman screaming. At 4 a.m., a security patrolman heard several shots. A housekeeper arrived at 8 in the morning and discovered a cut telephone line outside the house. Entering through a back door, she saw blood all over the living room. Looking out the front door, she saw a body on the lawn. She went outside, and in a car parked in the driveway, she found another body, bloody, slumped over on the seat. She ran, screaming hysterically to the neighbors to call the police. When the LAPD arrived, they found it to be the home of one of Hollywood's top directors, Norman Polanski, and his wife, Sharon Tate. Sharon was 8 months pregnant with their son, who was to be named Paul Richard Polanski. The officers found 2 bodies on the lawn. One, a young man, later identified as Pt6 Frykowski, aged 32, a longtime friend of Roman's. He had been shot twice, struck in the head with a blunt instrument 13 times, and stabbed 51 times. The second body, lying about 50 feet away, was that of Abigail Folger, 26, an heiress to the Folger coffee fortune. She and Frykowski had been lovers. She wore a full-length nightgown, which was soaked in blood from 28 stab wounds. As the officers approached the front door, they saw the word pig written in blood. Inside, they found Sharon Tate and a man identified as J. Sebring. A rope had been tied around their necks and looped up over a rafter, but it wasn't the rope that killed them. Sharon's life ended after 16 stab wounds to her chest and back, which also ended the life of her unborn baby son. Sharon was 26. J. Sebring, a top hairdresser, whose clients included celebrities such as Frank Sinatra, Paul Newman, and Steve McQueen, had been shot once and stabbed 7 times. The body in the car was identified as 18-year-old Stephen Parent. He had come to visit a friend, a caretaker who lived in the guest house on the estate. Parent died from 4 gunshot wounds. Police determined that a high-standard .22 caliber Longhorn revolver was a single gun used. A 10-year-old boy found it lying on his front lawn 23 days after the killings. Forensics experts also concluded that a single knife or bayonet, such as this one, was used to stab the victims. Everybody had a theory as to who had committed the murders, even Roman Polanski himself, who had been in Europe at the time, was interrogated at length by the police before being ruled out as a suspect. On August 10th, the night after the murders at the Tate-Polansky estate, the same killers decided that there was more killing to be done. They came down this quiet street, Waverly Drive, just on the edge of Hollywood and Silver Lake.